Hi, everyone. So we will get started. It's so good to see so many of you out tonight. And I know many of you are very excited about this topic. We're going to be talking about the top two things that people frequently ask me. So I'm so excited to have the opportunity to share my thoughts on this topic that I know is so near and dear to your heart. I've gotten so many messages saying, I'm so glad we're talking about this tonight. So just checking in. Hi, Aletta. Hi, Sonia. Zakia. How are you? Alicia, Leon, Angel, Raymond, Roderick, Taisha, Aline. Hi, Nakisha. Hi. Terrence, hi. Jennifer, Paul, thank you all for joining. And thank you for joining on this night where I had a change in the evening to this Thursday night. Hi, Sonia. Thank you so much. So, because I narrowed this down to 30 minutes, we will go ahead and get started. And I will check in with you and say my highs and do some shout outs in just a little while. So, as I said earlier, we're going to talk about bullies, intimidators, and other jerks at work. We all have been working with these people and have experiences with them. And they come in many different shapes and sizes and from different levels of the organization. Sometimes our peers fall into that category. Sometimes it's our leader, which can be the most frustrating because we just don't know how to deal with it when it's our leader. So talk about what a bully at work actually is. That bully, that intimidator, that jerk at work. Who are they? Well, they are the ones that have that lead or work in an intimidating manner. They're very hostile. They don't work in a collegial way or a collaborative way. They don't really believe in teamwork. If you're talking about a bully boss, oftentimes they show up in ways where they don't trust you. I always notice that there's always a lack of trust, and sometimes that comes in the form of micromanaging, giving you feedback in a hostile way, and not doing what I always like to do in my leadership style is, not assuming positive intent, always looking for what you've done wrong. So, what does that result in? It results in you being very fearful to show up at work. You're not feeling psychologically safe, and therefore, you are not performing to your optimal capabilities, right? And so, but you're thinking, you have this conundrum. What do I do with this, especially if these people are your boss? Let's talk about for a minute before I segue how these people show up as colleagues. You have people that speak over you in meetings, or people that tend to take your work and claim it as theirs, or use your words and claim it as theirs. They tend to be very negative towards you and try to encourage others to be negative towards you as well. And essentially, it creates a hostile work environment. Now, I use the word hostile work environment, and many of you know that in the US, hostile work environment, if it's created either by peers or by bosses, is illegal, right? But there's a catch, all right? Let's dial back a minute. Bullying at work is not illegal in the United States. So if someone is creating a hostile work environment for you, and it's not based on your protected class, meaning not based on your race, not based on your age, your religion, your physical and mental capabilities, those federal protected classes, then it's perfectly legal for them to do that under the EEOC laws, right? Under the employment discrimination laws. However, There are some laws out there, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute as we go down the line, that can protect you from these people that very, very few people know about when they're looking for solutions. Okay. So now that we've talked about these bullies at work and we've defined what they are, let's look at some statistics for a minute. So a bully lives in many, many workplaces, as you see here, right? And 60 million Americans are affected by workplace bullies. 60 million. That's a lot. And here are some other statistics on the screen. It's from the balance. I won't go into all of it, but I encourage you to watch the replay if you want to learn more about the statistics of people. So what does that tell us? It tells us you're not alone. I'm here to tell you, as a workplace culture expert, that you're not alone. Again, this is a question that I get asked time and time again in my inbox when I coach people how to deal with bullies, intimidators, and other jerks at work. So let's get started. Like I said, I try to stick to my 30-minute time frame, but I love this topic so much. I don't like the fact that there's bullies at work, but I love discussing and helping you to overcome them. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do if you are encountering a bully or jerk at work is to establish your boundaries straight out the gate. And I think that this is a step that is often missed, that we often neglect, is to set our boundaries. So the first time that that person crosses the line, they make you feel uncomfortable, the first thing you must do is to inform them that they have done so. Now, you don't have to do that in a negative way or an intimidating way. We don't want to, have the culture of bully begets bully, or uncivil behavior begets uncivil behavior. We don't want that. We want to work with civility and respect. So if someone crosses the line with you, it's very important that you approach them and say, hey, I need to give you some feedback. And again, this goes regardless of if they're your colleague or if they're your boss. It doesn't matter. Do not be afraid to give feedback and let that person know that they've crossed the line, right? So say, look, I need to give you some feedback. When you cut me off in that meeting earlier today, I found that to be disrespectful. I would never cut you off. Everybody here has opinions and expertise to share, and we need to each have an opportunity to do so. So I would appreciate it going forward if you would let me finish my sentence before you cut me off. Very, very, very simple, right? Let's talk about if it comes from a boss, some type of bullying behavior that may come from your boss or your manager or supervisor. Let's say that they are micromanaging you. You're trying to complete a project. You're doing a good job. You're staying on the timeline. But despite all of that, they're constantly asking you, where are you? Why isn't it done? They have that lack of trust. Again, another opportunity for you to go approach them and say, can I give you some feedback? I've given you no reason to think that I'm not going to complete this project on time, that I'm not going to do a good job with this project. I need to understand where there's a lack of trust. Let's try to resolve this. I would, rather you trust me until I give you a reason to. And when you do this, when you micromanage me, it makes me question my expertise and my value. And I shouldn't do that because, again, I've given you no reason to. So again, that's just a couple of examples of how you can set your boundaries and let people know when they've crossed it so that they know. Again, you can go to them again if it happens and say, look, we've had this conversation, and it's really bothering me that we keep having to have this conversation, but set your boundaries. That's the very first step. And that's a very important step that you must remember. Now, the second step is to stand your ground. Okay. So again, if the person continues to violate or cross those boundaries, once you have put them in place, then you should not stand back from standing your ground, right? You shouldn't give in. You shouldn't be intimidated by these people that are trying to intimidate you. Stand your ground. Let people know that you deserve to be respected. And you do. Everyone on this call, there is not one person that doesn't deserve respect in the workplace. And you've got to stand your ground on that. So if someone is constantly crossing those boundaries that you've put in place, you need to stand your ground and constantly tell them when they have done so. And again, giving that feedback to them in a very constructive way, right? When you stand your ground. Some people may push back with that feedback. They may accuse you, and I've had this happen before to me personally, when I have put my boundaries in place and then I've gone back and kind of, stood my ground, and I was accused of being a bully because I was standing my ground and I wasn't letting people cross those boundaries with me. But that was okay because I made it very clear. I'm not bullying you. I'm not intimidating you. What I am simply trying to articulate is how your behavior is impacting me and my ability to work successfully. And again, standing your ground is key. Most people at this point, when they realize that you have those boundaries in place and they're not going anywhere and they cannot be crossed without hearing about it, most people at that point will, okay, you're right. I'm not going to mess with you. I'm not going to bully you anymore. I'm not going to intimidate you. That's where most people stop. But I realize some people will not. And we're going to go to the next step. But before we go to the next step, let me check in to see what you're saying. I'm interested to hear your feedback so far. Yes, Taisha, you will be able to watch this again. So I record them, I download it. And if you go to my LinkedIn profile and go under articles, I post all of these LinkedIn Live. So I've already posted the previous two. This one will be up soon, so you can watch it anytime. Paulo, thank you. Nice house. This is not my house. It's a green screen. It's just a background. Means I don't have to clean up my house or office. But thank you anyway. I live in New York. These houses are not that big. Thank you, Nellie. Excellent approach to a micromanager that I worked under. That's right, Zakia. Turn the table. Tony, hey, how are you? Sometimes it's us, depending on where one may be in their emotional intelligence. Yes, you have to have self-awareness, right? That's very, very very important. Let's see, what else do we have? All right. So somebody said, Debbie says, good relevant information for my right now. Yes, I understand. I dealt with these issues for many years in the workplace before I had the courage to really take these steps. And these steps have been foolproof for me when I have implemented them. Again, not 100%. I haven't been in every organization or dealt with every single employee or boss, but these have worked for me. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So you have step one, you have established your boundaries. You've done step two, where you have stood your ground with those boundaries. You have let the person know that they've crossed their boundaries, they've crossed the line. You're not having it, right? Things have to change. You have to mandate respect in the workplace. But sometimes that just doesn't work, right? So that means that you have to go to the next step. So far, you have tried to handle this yourself. You have been respectful and you have been civil by trying to handle this or work this out with your colleague or your manager. But if you run into people that just simply refuse to stop crossing those boundaries you put in place, then you must demand an intervention. And that means going either to your manager if you're dealing with a colleague or a peer, or that means going to HR. Now, I know what you're going to say. I know exactly what you're going to say before you say it. Many of you are going to say, but I don't trust HR. I'm afraid I'm going to be retaliated against, right? I know what you're going to say. I've heard it many, many, many times. I cannot tell you how many times as I have sat in leadership positions in HR that I've watched employees be bullied, be intimidated by either their boss or a colleague, and they've let it get so bad to the point where, again, they are really dealing with, mental health issues because of it, right? That psychological stress, safety has been breached. They're dealing with stress and anxiety. Sometimes that mental illness can then present itself in a physical form, right? And then they come to me then when they're ready to walk out the door or have to take an FMLA, and I say, how come you didn't tell me sooner? And that's when I get the whole I don't trust HR or I was scared. Don't be. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to share this with you and only you, my audience. Oftentimes, these situations will eventually lead to your exit anyway, right? Right? You will get to a point where you simply cannot take it. You will start looking for another job. You'll start looking for any job, right? Just to get out of there. So, why not take that risk early on if you're probably going to leave anyway as a result of this? HR people aren't bad. Come see us. Then I'm able to help you. We're able to do an investigation. We are able to perhaps coach you. We are able to understand and determine maybe that leader needs coaching, or maybe that leader does not deserve to work at the organization. Now, when you're having that conversation with HR, when you're having that conversation with management, I always advise people tie in the organizational values into that conversation, right? So a lot of organizations have core values around teamwork, respect, civility, things like that. Tie that into the conversation and say, hey, I'm not feeling like our core values are being demonstrated in this behavior. Also, when you approach HR or you approach that member of management, be sure that you have documented very, very specific incidents where that person has crossed the line. I've had people to come to me and say, oh, such and such is a bully. My boss is a bully, but I'm just making sure I'm working. So I call it about my boss is a bully, but I'll say, okay, give me some examples. I need to understand what the behavior is. And I'll get, oh, just in general, I just don't like the way they talk to me. I just don't like the way they treat me. Okay, I need your help. HR will need your help to do the investigation, to really look into it. Be very, very specific about the behaviors. Be very, very specific. Look, the first time that that they demonstrated this behavior was on this day. And I went to them and I told them, that they had crossed the line. I thought we had a mutual understanding, but then they did it again. And I went to them again and said it was unacceptable. The more specific you are, it's better for the organization to help you to navigate. And if they need to remove this bully or this intimidator from the organization, if they are not willing to change their ways. All right. So stage an intervention. Now, there may be times, and I hate where it gets to this point, right? Some organizations do have employees in their organization that I like to call that highly valued employee, or the manager who is the equal opportunity jerk at work, right? That person that, regardless of your race, regardless of your age or your gender, they treat everyone badly. So you're thinking in your head, and you may have been told, well, there's nothing you can do. It's not illegal, right, for people to be a jerk at work. It's not illegal under employment discrimination laws, but it is illegal under what we call tort laws. Now, tort laws talk about negligence, and they even have some that are related to the workplace. But one of the torts that you may or may not have heard of is the intentional infliction of emotional distress, right? Now, these are very, very hard to prove in court, but people have been successful. There's another tort, is the negligent retention of a dangerous employee. right? So you have told the organization that this person is a danger, this person is impacting your health, right? They've refused to do so. They've refused to help you. They refuse to remove the employee. And guess what? If they're bullying you, they're probably bullying other people. Again, they're that equal opportunity jerk at work. Again, that's a tort, another tort that will help you. There's several more there. The negligent training. There's a lot. If you buy my book, You Can't Do That at Work, I have a whole section on this that talks about those torts that you can actually have a legal remedy that most people aren't aware of because of that myth that bullying and jerks is legal. There's nothing you can do. Yep, under employment discrimination laws, maybe there's nothing you can do, but there are legal remedies. But we don't want to get to that, right? Going through the legal process can be tiresome and arduous. You don't want to do it, time consuming. And nobody wants to go to court with their organization or sue or file a complaint. You don't want to do this. You want to try to go through those first 3 steps before it gets to that point. But I'm just being realistic. There are situations where it does get to that point. So I'm just giving you that legal remedy if you have to, right? Go there. My very fourth thing and my very last thing that I want to talk about in this regard is also to intervene on behalf of others. Now, this is what I mean by that. That bully, that intimidator, that jerk at work may not be targeting you at this point, but you may witness them, right, being uncivil, or being unfair or hostile or intimidating to your colleagues and your peers. And oftentimes we look the other way and just thank goodness they're not messing with me, or at least they're not messing with me. But think about 2 things. Number one, if they are bullying or intimidating someone else, more likely than not, that is impacting you, right? There are studies out there that show that when people witness incivility, even if it's not targeted towards them, then they cannot work to their optimum ability. It's a distraction, even if it's not targeted towards them. Right. So that's the first reason why we want to intervene on behalf of others. The second reason is, again, like I said, they may not be intimidating or bullying you now, but who's to say that they won't in the future? Right. So nip it in the bud, let them know, hey, I saw that. And you're also standing up for your colleagues. You're letting the person that is the target of this behavior know, look, I saw that. I heard that, and it's not okay, right? And when you do that, because a lot of people that experience this type of behavior, they think, well, maybe I'm being too sensitive, maybe I'm being thin-skinned, maybe I'm making up things, maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of doubt that goes on in their head, right? And that's one of the reasons why they don't report this type of behavior. But if they have people that say, I heard that, I saw that, that wasn't right, hey, if you want to, report it to management or HR, I'm glad to write a statement saying that I saw it. Or guess what? You can go to a member of management or HR on your own to say, hey, this is what I witnessed, and I just don't think that it's right, and I think someone should do something about it. All right. So the fourth step is to intervene on behalf of others. Okay. Now let me go back to see what you are saying. Yes. So Michelle says staff training on workplace behavior is a key factor to ensure all staff are on the same page. Absolutely. Organizations need to set out expectations, behavioral expectations, give very clear and specific examples of what behavior is accepted and what behavior is not accepted at work. Be very specific. Just don't say these general, look, just act in a professional way, right? Be very specific. leaders, if you're on here, what is it to act professional in your organization? What does respect look like in your organization? What does civility look like in your organization? And then what are some of the behaviors and expectations, that's not expected, right? What does incivility look like? What does unprofessionalism look like? Be very, very specific. And then you've got to hold everybody accountable to the same standards once you have done so. There can be no exceptions to the rule. There can't be those highly valued employees that are able to get away with uncivil conduct, but yet your frontline staff is being held to this higher standard, right? Thank you. Patty says, yep, zero tolerance with all employees. I've been bullied and now I'm in HR. All HR is not bullies or puppets. That's right. I have been bullied in an HR position, right? So look, these things, there's no exceptions to where you may encounter this, right? So don't think again that you're the only person, right? And I like where Debbie says, follow the chain of command. Yeah, it's a sign of respect, right? If it's happening to a peer, go to your manager, then go to HR. Again, try to handle it with that person and then work your way up, okay? What happens if the bully is HR? And like I just said, that's interesting. As I've just said, I have been in that situation as a member of HR. And that was, I've always said, where's HR for HR, right? Because not all HR departments should be where they should be in terms of this. And look, I say this, go to the other C-suite levels and let them know, this is what's happening. I've gone to the HR department. I feel like they're bullying or that they are handing out orders or being intimidating. And look, HR should be an advocate for me as an employee, and I don't see that. Again, you've got to use that escalation process and go outside the department and determine in your organization who would be the proper person to report that to. And essentially, that's what I did. And it was quite embarrassing to have to do that. But sometimes it happens that way. Yes, I like Patty said, see something, say something, and keep notes on your calendar. HR has. Yes, absolutely. You've got to be a documentation kings, queens, and whatever else out there to ensure, especially when it gets to the part where you might have to ask for an intervention, either internally or externally. The more that you say, I've tried to navigate this situation, the better. All right. I am almost out of time. Believe it or not, it's so much fun, when we're talking about this. But again, I hope that this has been helpful to you in just this 30-minute time frame. I do more work on this. If you want to talk more, I'm glad to come to your organization to talk more about it. There are certain techniques that can be put in place that can help both employees and managers to avoid this type of behavior, especially as it deals with civility and respect in the workplace. Now, I have a favor of you before I leave. Starting next week, I want to start a brand new segment on this, and it's going to be called At My Job, ... I want you to fill in the blanks. I want to hear all of the quirky policies or unwritten rules that you're like, I can't believe we do this, or I can't believe they say this. And I want to hear those stories. So if you have a quirky story or policy that you think would be, and I want to make it kind of funny, even though it's not funny that it's happening in your organization, send them to me. Send it to my inbox. I won't share your name. I'll keep it confidential. But share those at my job stories with me. I want to hear and share out. And what it does, it just lets us know, all of us know, that we're not alone in sometimes this quirky work world, right? But again, I look forward to hearing your feedback. So next week, I will be back here. I'll be back on my regular night of Tuesday night, and I will be dropping what the topic is pretty soon so that you will know. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining. I see more people. Roderick, Jewel, hi. I don't think I said hello. Denora, Satinia. I hope I said that right. But thank you so much. Michelle, I see you. Thank you for joining. I hope that that quick piece of nuggets will help you to create for yourself and for others more engaging and positive workplaces. That's my goal. That's my passion, is to create, to help to create and transform culture so that employees can come to work and do what they do best, what they've been trained to do, what they've been educated to do, and to just have fun at work and make it a memorable experience where they feel like they're making an impact on society and the world. So, again, I look forward to seeing you next week when we talk about work. Have a good night, everyone.